All right, back now here with you on the KFYR Plus News Desk at 1:30, and a lawsuit has been filed in Georgia federal court by one of the passengers on the Delta Airlines flight that crashed at Toronto's Pearson International Airport. Texas resident Marthinus Lourens, a passenger on the Delta flight that flipped while landing on February 17th, has filed a lawsuit citing severe head, back, and facial injuries. Delta Airlines has offered $30,000 to passengers from that recent crash. While seemingly generous, this compensation may come with hidden legal risks for passengers who might consider future lawsuits. Joining me right now is Jeff Corrick, Senior Trial Partner at GLK Law, specializing in personal injury and medical malpractice law with nearly 40 years of experience. Jeff, welcome to the program. Thank you for your time.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Well, can you provide a little bit of an overview of the lawsuit filed by Marthinus Lourens against Delta Airlines?
The gist of it is there were, and first things first, empathy to all the passengers that were on that plane and crew. And fortunately, no one was killed. There were 80 people, I understand, on board, 76, I think, and 4 crew members. It's wonderful that no one was killed. In terms of injuries, I understand 24 people had injuries. And so they have legal rights. And the legal rights, believe it or not, were as a result of a 1929 Warsaw Convention that establishes what airlines are obligated to their passengers for in the event of a crash or a mishap. In this case, we'll call it a mishap. And it puts the burden initially on the airlines to show that they were not negligent. And I think you have reports of 40-degree winds that day, and there are other allegations with regard to how that aircraft carrier operated. And so it's going to be tough for the airlines to prove that they were not negligent. And so it now becomes incumbent upon likely the passengers who are hopefully consulting with attorneys before making or signing any deals to explore what their options are.
What are the main legal claims being made in this case?
Well, the claims are going to be for emotional distress. There are some very specific provisions in the Warsaw Convention that do not allow on its face emotional injuries without any physical injury. So you can imagine what kind of terrible experience this is. The cabin flips upside down. You're drenched in airplane fuel. You have no idea if the aircraft is going to explode momentarily. You're desperate to get out. You're trying to be mindful, hopefully, of helping other passengers, protecting your own family. All of these things are really important in establishing what the emotional distress was like. But if you can't tie it to a physical injury, you may have a legal issue that only through consulting with attorneys can you kind of dissect and see what there is to be had. So physical injuries can be anything from rib contusions, concussions that are documented, of course. They can't just be, a put-up job, if you will. They've got to be real.
Yeah.
And that would be the connection to possibly recovering emotional distress damages.
Jeff, what terms and conditions do passengers agree to when they purchase a ticket with, say, a Delta Airlines?
Well, not in the old days, before we had all the electronic phones and whatnot, you got your printed ticket, and there would be the fine print, and that fine print would have the words Warsaw Convention all over it. 1929, it's been updated since the Montreal Convention, updated, I think, in 1999. So there are changes and amendments that have brought it up to date. The monetary amounts could be limited to $200,000. They could be more. Depending again on the circumstances of what the particular injuries are. This $30,000 number being offered from the airlines, I think it's actually a very good thing. I think it shows a good sign on behalf of the carriers for those cases that are worth quite more. That's something that could be talked about. If in fact it's true what they say, no strings attached, while it might serve as a reduction from the final amount, it's not a terrible thing. So I applaud them for making that first gesture. And I encourage anyone on that plane who's thinking of pursuing a claim to speak with someone before they just accept the carrier's word for it, or before they sign on to papers where they may have buyer's remorse.
Yeah.
So I think those are wise guidance.
How might accepting this compensation of $30,000 offer to passengers involved in the crash affect their ability to pursue future legal action?
That's the $64,000 question, or forgive the pun. They've got to read the fine print, and I wouldn't expect lay people to do that without the benefit of someone who's been involved in aviation cases before. It's not
Mm-hmm.
that people are out to trick you. It's just good common sense to read the fine print and to have professionals who understand perhaps hidden meanings, reading between the lines of what that may mean. So I haven't seen yet what it is they're putting in writing about that 30,000, but I'll take them at their word. If it's no strings attached, then at most it'll be a $30,000 reduction in what you recover.
Can you explain what is meant by a legal loophole in the context of this case?
Somebody once told me that the loophole is the little thing that they shoot arrows from in the top of castle turrets.
Okay.
So it's a very fine, small hole that you can shoot out from, but they can't shoot into, which is really the definition of a loophole. So the loopholes here, I don't know. Until we see that print, we don't know as to what it is you're signing away by accepting that 30,000. The bigger loopholes, which are not really loopholes, they're the way the system was designed to work, are to prove that you're entitled to more significant compensation for your injuries, and the more the obstacles I mentioned in the first place, which is to shift the burden to the aircraft carrier to show why they were not negligent. Those are the important, not necessarily loopholes, but obstacles. The loophole may be, what did they accomplish by way of this $30,000 payment, which we talked about.
Yeah. Are there any potential hidden risks or consequences if they accept this payout?
Again, it's all going to be in the fine print. We don't typically get in these type of cases an automatic offer. I mean, look, you're on an airplane, it flips upside down, you're drenched in fuel, right? Something went wrong that wasn't any of the passengers' fault. So
Yep.
just saying that stuff like this happens, I don't know, in my lifetime, I don't recall fuselage being turned on its head. So that's a lot of explaining to do, so to speak.
I have personal experience, Jeff. If you wouldn't mind, I'd like to share with you concerning an
Please.
accident, a public accident that happened. If you remember, probably 25 years ago, I lived in Minot, North Dakota. If you remember, there was a huge train derailment in Minot, North Dakota at that time. Burlington Northern train right behind my home had derailed about a mile and a half to the west of my home, actually. And so there was a lot of people in the neighborhood and a lot of people in the community that were affected by this derailment. And what they did right away, within the week of it happening, was they were issuing $500 checks, $600 checks, just to get you food, because they didn't want you to eat the food because there was fuel of some sort that had been derailed, and it might have contaminated your food that you had sitting on the counter. So they gave you that, didn't have you sign anything. They just said, bring us your phone bill or something, a cable bill to show that you live there, and we're going to give you some money. Later on, Jeff, about 2 months later, they said, listen, we're going to help you even more. We want a $1,500 check we're going to give you, but I need you to sign this little piece of paper right here. You don't read it, but you sign it, and I'm going to give you a $1,500 check. Now, personally, Jeff, I wasn't really affected by it too bad. I took the money because I was moving anyway. A lot of people did not, but that was to stop them from suing them for negligence if they were sick later on, 6 months down the road, if their baby got, something happened to them, cancer or something. So I can understand why people should be hesitant for a payout such as this. So what rights do passengers have in situations like this?
Well, I think the Warsaw Convention is going to dictate what their rights are. And I think seeing an attorney before signing anything, which is a good lesson in life, for your, I don't know, your fifth graders all the way up till the rest of your life. Don't sign
Mm-hmm.
anything unless you know what you're signing, and try to get professional help. In our profession where we're representing, and I started off, by the way, representing defendants, so big airlines, insurance companies, et cetera. First 5 years, last 35, I've only been representing people who've been involved in accidents. They used to send a check for the full amount of the primary insurance policy. They did that in an effort to convince people to cash the check in full settlement of the case without ever letting them know that there was an excess insurance policy that covered the incident as well. So exactly what you're talking about, not necessarily a bait and switch, but maybe a variation on the theme. You
Right.
get the first check for 500, like you said, and
Hmm.
then you figure, oh, another 1,500, where do I sign? But it's when the signing comes into place that you got to be careful. And
That's
so I
exactly
think
it.
these tricks by the insurance companies in the past, and what your experience was, we got to look out for them as consumers.
Jeff, how is liability determined in cases involving airline crashes and passenger injuries?
Again, it's going to be in these cases, infliction of everyone's going to have a different experience. Some may be similar, but they're all going to have a different experience. Who got drenched the most? Who climbed their way? Who may have had injuries that they saw doctors for, hospitalization? Who are all these? Who are the people involved in those type of situations? So I think that's going to be the telltale sign of what each case is worth. But each case got to be looked at individually.
Sure. And so I guess this next question might be a bit hard to answer, but what are some pros and cons of accepting a settlement offer versus pursuing some litigation in court?
Well, I think it's all going to be dictated by the numbers. If you and your attorney feel that the numbers that are being offered or suggested or negotiated with you are, you know, numbers that if you were sitting as a juror and listening to your own case as objectively as you could, is that something you would award or not award? It's not going to be a judge who's going to decide how much is awarded. It's going to be typically a jury of your peers. I know the case you referred to was brought in Texas. Some of the other cases could be brought in Atlanta, where Delta was headquartered. They could be brought um, in some of the other states where Endeavor Air operated out of. There's a variety of different venues, and where the case is tried is going to often dictate who decides. And if the jury's deciding, those are your peers, and those are people who may think differently about what a fair amount is than either you or the insurance carrier or airplane carrier, I should say.
The incident happened in Toronto. Would there be a court case in Toronto? Would an American bring a court case in that jurisdiction?
This is a terrific country, and I know people are quick to criticize. We have too many lawsuits, but this is a terrific country because we have a right to trial by jury guaranteed to us by the Constitution, by the Bill of Rights. And so if a jury sits on a case and thinks it's nonsense, they'll say so. That's been my experience for 40 years. And if it's
Mm-hmm.
not some nonsense and you're deserving, they'll probably give you what you deserve or pretty close to it. And to me, while it may not be a perfect system, I don't know of any other that's better. So my advice is if you can bring in an American court, that's where you want to be. And not because it's a lottery system, but because usually, in my experience, 40 years of trying cases, it works out the way it should.
With
And that
that
means even
vast,
in some free handle, they don't always work out the way we want, but they usually work
yeah.
out the way they should.
With your vast experience, Jeff, are there any precedents or past cases that could influence the outcome of this lawsuit?
Well, I think you're going to get into the weeds of what law prevails when it comes to the Warsaw Convention. And there's going to be a very strong thicket on what we were talking about before, which is emotional distress claims. And when can you be awarded money? Think about the ramifications. If you can watch something on TV, somebody else's car accident, airplane crash, and you're disturbed by it, should you be entitled to compensation because you watched it on TV? Of course not.
Mm-hmm.
Now put yourself in that situation. You don't get hurt and you walk away without a scratch. Should you be compensated? Well, now let's get into the weeds. Were there actually no injuries? Did you not have any type of concussion? Were you not drenched with fuel? Did you not fear for your life? Those are the kind of questions that you need a professional, quite frankly, to guide you. And that's where the disputes are going to be on the law between the aircraft carrier, their insurance companies, and the passengers.
I just want to be clear for myself and for the viewers, Jeff, that the $30,000 that is being offered to all 80, how many passengers? All passengers, not just this one?
That's my understanding. And, I don't know what they're doing about the 4 crew members, but I think 76 of the 80 have this offer available to them. And for some, maybe without going through, because it's never easy for anyone to have a lawsuit. It shouldn't be taken lightly. If they feel that 30,000 compensates them for what they went through and they want to move on and put this behind them, maybe it's not the wrong number. For others who've experienced far worse, maybe it's exactly the wrong number. So it's always the individual experience who's getting good guidance from a professional, namely an attorney.
How long might a case like this take to get resolved, and what are some of the key stages involved in it?
Great question. In lawsuits, and again, here's one of the flaws of our system, even the American system of justice, is it takes a long time. And justice delayed is often justice denied, unfortunately. It could take 3, 4, 5 years, depends where the case is brought. Federal courts move things a little quicker. This is probably where this would be brought. You're going to have the stage of initially bringing the lawsuit. You're going to have the stage of the other side responding. You're going to have a discovery stage where we're going to need to prove that they were negligent. That's going to take a lot of depositions of different personnel involved, the crew members. There'll be a thorough investigation of people's backgrounds, whether they were receiving counseling for anxiety, psychological, psychiatric issues before they ever got on the airplane, which doesn't, by the way, necessarily make things better for the aircraft carrier, because the law is wise in the sense that if you come to the scenario with already emotional issues in place, and this makes things worse, well, that's not something you get blamed for. That's something you're supposed to be compensated for. So that's a big part of this, is examining the people bringing the case, examining the actions of the aircraft carrier. Then there are always motions for discovery that one side or the other holds from the other. There'll be motions on issues of law. There'll be motions to dismiss because there's no physical injury. So unfortunately, things take time. They need to be aired out, and there needs to be a decision on them before you get your case to where you want it, which is in front of a jury to make a decision after hearing a trial as to what it's worth. And there'll be attempts along the way by both the judge and the mediator, perhaps, if they put in place, which is always a good idea, or a referee of some sort. Not binding, but it does help resolve a lot of cases by making offers to people with an honest broker.
Jeff, final question. What advice would you give to passengers who are considering legal action after an incident such as this?
Again, this is not a pitch for the plaintiff's bar, but just a pitch in general from your 5th grader on. Get counsel, get an attorney to look at it before you make any decisions. You'll probably have a free consultation with any attorney who'll be happy to look at it, let you know what they think, and then you can make a decision about what you want to do. There's plenty of good attorneys out there who might say, based on what I've heard, if you're thinking about taking this offer, it's not necessarily a bad decision. It's all up to the attorney and, most importantly, the client to decide what's best for that client.
Jeff Corrick, Senior Trial Partner at GLK Law. Thank you so much for the insight. Appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It was good to be here.
Absolutely. All right, we're 12 in front of 2 o'clock. Quick break. We're right back here with a look at entertainment news next on KFYR+.